There it is.
All right. Hi, everyone. We are hopeful that the technology is going to work this time. So thank you all for your patience and bearing with us here. So tonight we have a Q&A session with two of our fabulous surrogates. My name is Hannah. I am one of our educational marketing associates at Family Source Consultants. I myself was actually also a surrogate and delivered a healthy baby boy last July, so July 2022. And now I get to just work with fabulous surrogates. So Jenna, do you want to start by introducing yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself and where you are in the journey.
Yeah, so my name's Jenna. I'm married and have two cute little boys. They're 2 and almost 4. Unfortunately, I had a failed transfer last month, so I am going to try again this Friday, and I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm so glad that we caught you on transfer week because you are at a very particularly exciting point. So we're going to talk all about that in just a minute. And then Brittany, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you are in your journey?
I'm Brittany. I have 2 kids. My kids are actually a little bit older. I have an almost 18-year-old, and then I have a 9-year-old. So, and this is my first journey, and I am currently almost 23 weeks pregnant. So I'm kind of like, I guess you could say halfway through the process, minus all the beginning stuff. I'm halfway through the pregnancy, so it's been super exciting. I remember my transfer week. I was so excited. I'm like, every time I see someone going for their transfer, I'm like, I'm excited. Well, now I usually cry because, my emotions.
Hormones. Yeah. Brittany, do you feel like it's flying by for you?
I do. So I think the number one thing surrogates always say in the beginning when people ask for advice is to have patience. And when you're in the beginning of it, it almost feels like you're like walking uphill in mud or something. It's just not progressing. But then I swear, I feel like I just did my transfer and I'm like, oh, but wait, it's almost October and I'm due in January. Like, hold on a second. So yeah, I do feel like, especially since transfer, I do feel like time has gone pretty quick.
Yeah, that's wild. Well, I'm so happy to be able to have a conversation with you both today. It'll be, again, a very relaxed conversation. Our hope is to kind of educate some folks about, the ins and outs of surrogacy and what it's really like. So if you're watching live for the next 30 minutes or so, we will be, we can answer questions. So if you put them in the comments directly or any comments that you have, we will be able to, track the chat and they'll come through right to us. So we'll be able to see what questions you have. But Jenna, I want to hear from you first about why did you even sign up to be a surrogate in the whole first place?
Yeah, so when I was a teenager, I was one of those weird teenagers that would watch all these shows on TLC about birthing shows. I don't know what other 16-year-old is fascinated by birthing shows, but I was. And I can't remember what the name of the show was, but I think there was one on surrogacy, and I thought, wow, that would be such an awesome way to help a family grow. And obviously at 16 and social media wasn't that big, I didn't think I'd ever get the chance. So I kind of just swept it on the rug a little bit. Well, then fast forward 2 decades later, after having my own children, I ran into a surrogate on TikTok, and I thought, wow, I could actually do this. And she had the link for Family Source Consultants and everything. So it's wow, this is a legit thing. Let's do this. So I asked my husband, I said, how would you feel about being a surrogate? And he said, I don't know. What do you know about it? I said, absolutely nothing, but I'm about to find out. So within minutes of, I don't know if I think I went online and requested more information. And within minutes of me requesting, I got a phone call and I'm like, wow, they're quick. I like that.
Yeah. So
yeah, everything.
No, go ahead.
Everything's just gone, other than unfortunately a failed transfer, everything's just gone so smoothly and so perfect. So yeah.
Yeah. So when you started, you didn't fill out an application to start or anything. You literally just clicked a, hey, just tell me more button that I know we have on our website.
Yeah. And then they told me to fill out an application, obviously. But
right,
they basically just told me, if you have any questions before you fill it out, let us know. And I'm like, well, I really don't know what to ask. I just know I want to be pregnant and help someone grow their family. So then after that, I just went online and filled it out.
Yeah. And then Brittany, did you start by just requesting more information? Did you talk to multiple agencies? What did your initial steps look like?
So I actually found Family Source through a friend of mine who is an egg donor. She's donated eggs several times. And so I had kind of always wanted to be a surrogate. I'm like one of those people who I'm like, oh, like I like being pregnant and like I do have nausea in the beginning. So like it's not like it's just all rainbows for me, but it is just something that like I enjoy, and I feel like I always felt like my body was really good at it. It was always pretty kind to me. And so it just never worked out. But last year I was like, maybe I should message her and see like how she did it and who she went through. And I was like, hey, do they like do surrogacy stuff? And she's like, yes, absolutely. You should go on their website and see what they have to say. And I just went right for it. I like filled out, I'm pretty sure I filled out the application and like the first time I was on the website. So I kind of just like dove right in. I didn't really look at other agencies just because the personal referral from my friend like meant a lot to me. And she had said that like even though the process is obviously different for donating eggs versus surrogacy, she didn't have anything but good stuff to say about Family Source. And so that was kind of like more important to me than shopping around. I don't even know what you really call it when you look around, but I wasn't, out to find anything different because I also had no clue, so it's not like I had this checklist of like, oh, I want an agency that does this and this and this. It was just kind of like I said, the personal referral meant a lot to me. So I went online and filled out an application. And I mean, I think within like a day or two, I had done like everything. I had filled out my profile and had like made an appointment to like get approved by my doctor and did everything. I was like super gung-ho about it. I was like, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna get it done. And I was also terrified of being too old. So like there was like a part of me that was like rushing it because of that. I'm like, okay, come on, I gotta do this before my birthday, but then come to find out I have plenty of time to probably do it again if I want to. So that's not an issue. I think a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot, but I have had aren't you too old for that? And I'm like, well, apparently not.
I thought you were my age.
I know. Well, and so it's just like it's funny the misconceptions that there are about it. But yeah, I have been nothing but happy with Family Source. So I've never even thought twice about my decision or like, oh, I should have looked somewhere else. Like it's been very nice and helpful and all about the surrogate. I would say that's the number one thing I tell people. I'm like, they literally put me first all the time. Like, and I think that that's very important in something of this magnitude where you need that support and to feel like you're heard and, being taken care of, if you will.
Yeah. And we have, you have your own person essentially assigned to you to manage all of the questions.
Yeah, which is really nice because it's consistent and it's not like, oh, well, do you know this? Do you know that? Let me catch up with you. Like they know everything from day one. It's like, everything I've been through, the good, the bad, the times I've been frustrated, the times I've been happy. And so it is nice to have that consistency. It makes it a lot more personal.
Yeah, because we had somebody comment in one of the chats here that they're right in the initial steps and feeling a little nervous. So did either of you feel kind of, Jenna, it sounds like you just jumped right. It sounds like you both really were just enthusiastically like, let's go. But Jenna, were you ever like kind of nervous in the initial steps, and how did some of those nerves kind of get fixed essentially?
So honestly, first off, I was slightly nervous, like the butterfly feeling, trying to clear medical, because it's like, I don't know, I'm a worrywart. Like I'm pretty good, I think, at pretending like everything is cool, even when it's not.
Yeah.
So like I never really told anyone, yeah, I'm so nervous. But like you get nervous because what if there's like one teeny tiny little thing that you aren't going to clear medically? And I was beating myself up over it. And then finally I cleared medical and it's like, okay, I can calm down. And then you go into the matching part and it's crazy because it almost feels like online dating. Like you see other people's profiles and it's like, at first I thought that's really cool because we get to see their profile first. And I thought that's really awesome. But then I'm like, no, it's not because I said yes, but now I have to stuck and I'm stuck here waiting. Like, what if they don't like me? And I'm the only one that knows like that they've already seen my profile. So
Right.
and then I got nervous for that. So it's like if it's something you want to do, just consider that the nervous part of it is good and try to enjoy it, as weird as it sounds, because you're never going to have those feelings ever again. And then once you make it to the next step, you'll be so excited and you'll be so proud of yourself, and then you'll just all the nerves will kind of start slowly going away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Brittany, did you have nerves at the beginning? Well, it sounds like you were a little worried about
Um,
the age thing.
yeah, so that was like my initial thing, but then like once I obviously immediately learned a little more about it, I saw that I was like at least a couple years off from like the first time surrogate age. But then same thing, like the medical, like going to my doctor, I wasn't super nervous because obviously I see my doctor on a regular basis, and so I kind of, knew everything was okay. But then like so when I matched, my matching process took a little while. I actually had two people that I said yes to say no to me. And so that is like it is, I didn't think about it till someone did it to me. And then it's like, it almost hurts your feelings. But then you think
Yeah, it's
about it and
rejection,
you're
right?
like, well, I was like, come on, like I'm open for business. Like, what's the problem? Why are you turning me down? Like, but I do think this is like one of those things, as cheesy as it is, what's meant to be will happen
Yeah.
because the IPs that I am matched with, I cannot imagine getting along with someone or feeling like I was a better match with someone. And so that like went away as soon as I matched and had my Zoom and met them the first time. I was like, oh, this is why, because I
Yeah.
was meant to match with them. But so I matched, and then like where I was on the calendar, it worked out that like I flew to Texas like 2 days later to be approved by their clinic. So like my medical clearance came up
Wow.
really fast. So I was like,
Yeah.
yay, I'm matched. And then I was like, crap, like
Oh,
what
I'm
if I
flying to
fly
Texas.
all the way to Texas and then they're like, no. And it's almost a personal thing because like it is your body and it is like you. And so, like you said, there's that fear of like, what if something that's not necessarily wrong with me doesn't meet the criteria of like the fertility doctor and causes them to like say no, because what a letdown. Like, obviously, there's a lot of places in the journey for that to happen, but like that initial, like, you're so excited, and then going to that, it's just like, man, I hope this goes okay. Like,
Oh, yeah.
so, and I remember like how excited I was when I got approved. I think your first journey, there's so many little nervous things because you're just kind
Yeah.
of so unsure. Because then, like, in my med cycle, like, they would want my body to do a certain thing, and I would be like nervous, and I'm like, oh, like, am I making this not happen because I'm like so worried about it? But I would say like that once I was medically cleared, I feel like I was pretty relaxed about
Mhm.
things. I mean, it is a little like you have little moments, but I think you get so excited with each little thing that the nerves kind of go away at that point. Um, and then my transfer, I would say, was probably my biggest thing that I repeatedly thought about and worried about.
Yeah, that's so interesting that it sounds like you kind of calmed down after med transfer. I feel like I got so much more nervous up. And part of it, I think, is because there's so many check-ins along the way. Like when you
Uh
just get
huh.
pregnant with your own kids and you don't have to do IVF, it's, I didn't know my levels of any hormones. Like I wasn't like
Ever.
tracking any of that. And then
Hmm.
you go from that to like having to have that tracked on a weekly basis. And so every week you're needing to make sure that you meet the numbers that they want you to be at. And that can be very stressful. But like we said before, like you have somebody at Family Source that's really looking out. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I love to hear both of your stories about like matching and how that worked too, because like it's so great to hear that, you're feeling good about that. And then Jenna, obviously you've kind of had an interesting situation. So you kind of did have something go wrong that I feel like isn't talked about quite enough, because it is kind of part of a normal part of the IVF process in a lot of ways, is a transfer that doesn't work no matter how right you do all the steps, right? So are you still working with that same match? Like, are you still matched with the same folks that you were with for that initial transfer?
Yeah, so I'm so blessed to have like an incredible IP. Like he's ready. He wants to be a dad. So like it's kind of sad, but at the same time looking back, it's like he almost knew it wasn't going to take, because as we were walking to our vehicles after the transfer to go home, he said, "So how soon should I wait to make more embryos just in case this fails?" And I'm like, "Well, that's kind of upsetting, but let's just have a little faith." And here I was like so confident and trying so hard to remind myself to not get all stressed out, because they say that's like the biggest reason that hiccups happen is when you overly stress. So I'm like, I'm going to stay calm and I'm going to tell him that I'm having so much faith it's going to stick. And then 2 weeks later and it failed.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, I don't know if he just, something in him knew it wasn't going to stick, or maybe he just was preparing himself. And he's so sweet. Then he texts me after I told him the unfortunate news, and he said, "How are you feeling?" And I'm like, "Dude, this is your chance at becoming a dad, and you're asking me how I'm feeling? Like, I appreciate it." So I'm like so blessed. And so like basically he even let me sit in on the phone call with his doctor to see about the next steps of creating embryos so that I could completely be in the loop. Like he never left me out of anything. I know there's some surrogates I talk to, and unfortunately the language barrier has been hard for some of them, and they have no clue what the next step is. Like you're just waiting for your period to come back and you have no idea what's going to happen. When are you going to start up medication? Because you have to wait for your period to start back up for every new cycle. But with me, it was like 3 days after transfer, or 3 days after I stopped taking my medication, my period came back immediately. And then I got an email from the clinic and they're like, "Okay, go ahead and start your suppression pills and then we'll get you going right back on track for the next month." So just everything back to back. I'm so thankful that everybody's working so fast, because I know that it's not always like that. So I feel very blessed that I didn't have to be thrown back in the matching process and do it all over again.
Well, and so your initial transfer was when, in July?
I want to say it was July 25th, the last week of
July. And now you're able to transfer again now, end of September.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I know we get that question pretty frequently of what happens if it doesn't work. So I'd say 2 months or so is pretty quick, but pretty standard for turnaround times there, just depending on when your period starts back. So do you are you doing anything different this time around? Anything different in like the medicine protocol?
So last time, the only difference so far is I am taking one more of the same exact pill that I took last time. So I used to only take one in the morning and one in the evening. Well, now I just add one in the afternoon, but it's literally the same medication I took. And then the last cycle, I did not take aspirin. And this time around, I take one baby aspirin a day. So it's essentially the same, just a little bit more, just one more pill.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of folks that it just doesn't work the first time, no matter what you do or didn't do differently. And then the second time around it does. So, I'm excited for you this week and to follow up and see kind of where you're at. I know we had somebody comment and say that they just had their transfer last Friday and it's only day 3, but they want to keep testing.
It's so hard to not test.
Brittany, did you test in that waiting period?
Yeah, so I told myself I wasn't going to. I was like, let's just not. And then I got on Amazon and bought like a 30-pack of the like little strip tests.
Always.
And so like when I came home, I was like, day 5. I'm gonna do it on day 5 because that was the most like common day that I had found in like our group and reading online that like people with either surrogacy or IVF had like seen a positive result. Well, I made it to day 3.
And then you started testing.
And I took a test and it was negative. And before I took it, I had told myself, like, no matter what this is, like I was like like momming myself. I'm like, you already know it's too soon. So if it comes back negative, like we're just going to throw it in the trash and we're not going to think about it. And so I skipped day 4 and made it to day 5.
Wow.
In day 5, I had a very faint line, but it was there. I knew from compared to the first one I took that there was definitely something there. So then I taped it to a piece of paper, and every day after that until like I went for my beta on like the 12th day, I took a test every day. And it's kind of cool now because I put it in my little book, the little memory book that they like I think Family Source sent it to me to keep track of like milestones in my journey. And so I have them all kind of taped in there, and it's kind of cool because I wrote the days and you can see the line just get like darker and darker. But
Cute.
it was like, for me, it was just more like a sense of security because the whole thing is like so surreal. Like I got on an airplane and I flew to Texas and then like pregnant, like, you know, you're pregnant till
Yeah.
proven otherwise. And so like you do think about it and you don't want to stress it because like Jenna said, they tell you like being as stress-free as possible is like the best thing that you can do. And so for me personally, taking the test, whether it had been positive or negative, was like the easiest way for me to calm my nerves and not be stress free because then at least I know one way or the other. And I'm not, because I'm an overthinker and I'll be in my head just like all the time thinking about it. But yeah, I made it a whole 3 days, even though I said I wasn't going to take one till I did my beta. And I'm like, no, that's not happening. And I had taken like 4 or 5, and I messaged the intended mother, and I was just like, so should I take a test or because we had talked about it and she said she didn't care what I did. And then we never talked about it again. And so she said, you do what you want, but if you take one, I want to know what it says. So I went immediately and took a new one and then took a picture of it and was like, but there is that like, kind of hesitation until you get to the beta and like see those numbers. Like you said, like I had no clue with my kids. Like I probably didn't even know I was pregnant at that point with my own kids yet.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so like it was kind of crazy because even then you're like, okay, now I want to see the heartbeat. Now I want to hear the heartbeat. Okay, I want to hear the heartbeat again,
Yeah.
because you're just still on all those meds. And I feel like it's a lot. I feel like the medication intensifies the beginning stages of pregnancy. At least it did for me. But I don't take a lot of medicine. I've never been on birth control until my med cycle for surrogacy. So go me with only having 2 kids, but but yeah, it's crazy, and I couldn't wait. There's no way. And if I do it again, I'll do it again. I'll do it the same way again. So
I would say for anybody who is looking to become a surrogate, like that's something you definitely have to talk over with your intended parents in advance about if they want to know, if they want you to know. Mine didn't want to know at all during that waiting period. So it was about, I think they made us wait like 10 days until my first blood test to find out. And they waited, like they wanted to wait. But they said that I was able to take a test. So I took a test, but then I just had to keep that information secret
to yourself.
like the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a very long 10 days, even though like I knew, I just didn't, I didn't want to spoil anything for them. So it is, it's as much as it's your experience as the surrogate, it's really their experience. So
yeah,
I don't want to mess that up. That's wild. But yes, for whoever's trying to test on day 3, wait, because you will just be disappointed. I would have cried, Brittany, if I was in your situation and took that day 3 test and it was negative.
Yeah. I'm surprised I didn't get more upset. But like I said, I pep talked myself before that, like, all right, if you're going to do it, like, you got to be a big girl and not get upset because it's probably going to be negative. Like,
even after that pep
talk. Right. I know. I didn't tell anyone. I was like, I'm not telling anyone I even took it. Like, I didn't tell. It was like, literally, probably I answered a question in the group like a week or two ago about testing. And I think that's the first time I like admitted to everyone that I took it on day 3 and it was negative, because up until then I was just kind of like, no one needs to know that happened.
Yeah. And I will say, like, even my blood test was low. I was on the low side, and I know I was panicking about it. I think it was like 111 or like 100 something. So I got the results back, and the clinic was like, congratulations, you did it. And I was like, but it's not high enough. And then I was the one in the group like messaging to find out if my numbers were high enough.
Like this. Yeah. And because mine was like 970 or something like that. My first one. My second one was like almost 2,000. I was like, are there 2 babies in here? What's happening?
But I've heard that's a myth, though. The number isn't correlated to how many babies you actually have. Yeah.
Oh,
and here's the weird part.
Yeah.
Here's the weird part too, is when I of course I peed on a stick every day too. Like I think I started probably the morning of the 4th morning that I waited, because like you said, everybody says don't test on day 3, day 4 sometimes. But when I reached out to my case manager, probably day 7 or 8, they made me wait a whole 2 weeks. Like I had to wait exactly 2 weeks. And I'm like, I'm just not getting a positive. And she's like, well, don't panic yet. I guess she said she did 4 journeys, my case manager. And she said one of her 4 journeys, like every single day up until the 2-week wait was over, she tested negative. But she said that her beta on day 14 showed that she was positive, and she went on to have a completely healthy full-term pregnancy. So in my mind,
I wouldn't have made it through that. I made it through day 3, but I wouldn't have made. There's no way I would have been like, so I just
kept peeing on the stick, and I'm like, this is weird. Maybe the baby's just hiding. Who knows? But nope, the baby wasn't hiding. So
yeah, and then sometimes you get a positive, and then they keep getting lighter, and then it.
I was so scared for that. Yeah, I was so scared. I'm like, I either stop now so that I don't get a positive and watch the line fade, or I just keep going, and it's such a mind game.
The whole thing is. So yeah, it's really easy to say when you're not in it, like just relax, and you got to just keep it moving. But I know I've never been good at that. So yeah, I don't envy either of you really for having to like, it's a lot of steps to get to where you both are, really. So it's really commendable. Now, do you have other advice to folks who are kind of in the earlier stages of their surrogacy journeys? Anything else that you wish you knew going into it?
Don't be afraid to ask questions, because the case managers are all amazing, and there's no silly question. Like, they will not make you feel like any question is dumb. Like, I love my case manager. I can't say enough good things about her. And really just try really hard to enjoy being in the moment, because it's such a hurry up and wait process. I know everybody says that, but it is, because you hurry up to get to the next step. And then you're like, okay, thank goodness I finally made it through this step. And then you're hurrying up to get to the next step. But it's like, and then you look back and it's like, even though I'm just to my second transfer for my first journey, it's like looking back at everything that I've already accomplished, you can like look back at how proud you are of yourself for making it to the next step. But then you'll never be at that step again unless you decide to do another journey. But you still won't feel the same, because your first journey, you don't know what to expect. So just try really, really hard to not get too impatient, and just try to enjoy where you're at.
I think that's wonderful advice. Brittany, anything you'd add, or anything else in particular that you wish you knew about?
I can't think of anything I wish I knew about. I think one of the biggest things I always tell people, because I feel like we all, but I definitely feel like I have a ton of conversations about surrogacy. I post a lot about it, and I have a lot of, people in person that will talk to me. Because I tell people, like, anytime someone talks to me, like, especially now that I'm showing and it's like obvious I'm pregnant, everyone's talked to me. I tell people because I feel like it's a great learning opportunity, and something that a lot of people just find really cool. And so like they are interested, and everyone kind of has the same questions, but I would say like one of the biggest things I tell people who talk to me about becoming a surrogate is to stand your ground with the things that you believe in and the things that you may or may not want to do. Because as much as you want to match with people and you want that process to kind of go quickly or easily, or you want to be agreeable so that, you know, the couple that you pick can match, I I always say to like stick to who you are, and stick to the things that you believe in. Like one of my things was I had never been vaccinated for COVID. And so when it came to, so I started last year, it was like last year in June. So we're talking 2022. So we're like a couple years out of that. But it was still a very prevalent thing with like
Mhm.
fertility clinics wanting surrogates to be vaccinated. And so me not having a COVID vaccine kind of like took the list of IPs and like chopped it. And then when you take in account the other things that make a surrogate and IPs compatible, you're of course chopping it a little bit more, you know, and I got discouraged. I never got to the point where I was like, you know what, I'm going to get it, because I do live my life the way I live it because I believe in it and it's important to me. And honestly, as far as the COVID vaccine goes, I'm just not a vaccine person in general. I don't remember the last time I had a flu shot. I don't remember, you know,
Okay.
I'm not quick to take medications for things, you know. So it was just me living my life. It wasn't me having some like cross to bear as far as like the COVID vaccine. But, you know, people would ask me, they're like, well, would you just get vaccinated because then you would match with people? And I'm like, no. And it goes back to like what we were saying, you know, now that I'm matched, there's no way, you know, it feels so right. And it like we are meant to be together that I would not take it back, you know, the extra time I did wait, because it took me from June, it was November when I matched, which isn't a super long time, but a lot of people match fairly quickly.
Mhm.
And so for me, like it was discouraging. Like I said, I did have two people that I said yes to say no to me. So
Yeah.
the beginning of my journey was kind of like, you know, I was like, it's out of my hands. If it's meant to happen and it's meant to be, then it will, you know. And now looking back, like I said, I wouldn't change anything, but that's probably my biggest piece of advice. There was a discussion in the support group where people had talked about, I usually eat vegetarian and I agreed to eat meat, or I
Hmm.
don't usually do this and I agreed to do it for my surrogacy. And then I regretted it because I felt like I
Yeah.
gave up part of me
Sure.
to appease someone else. And the thing is there are so many people out there looking for a surrogate that the right people will come along that will
Mhm.
accept you the way that you are in the way that you live your life.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's probably in the beginning stages, probably my biggest piece of advice. Patience is always going to be advice from a surrogate that's been through it because you just have to. But yeah, I think that staying true to yourself and you know what you want out of it, because although you are doing it for someone else, it is a significant part of your life also.
Yeah.
So I think just being true to you and, you know, making sure that you stay happy throughout the process is a big positive
Mhm.
and will make it go a lot easier.
Yeah, I really appreciate that perspective for sure, because I think that a lot of the time in matching, it is so much like online dating, to be honest, where you're
Uh-huh.
trying to like find somebody and make it work, but like with, you shouldn't have to make
People
it
will be
work.
like, "What it's like? What's it like?" And I'm like, "Well, you know how like on Match.com or websites like that, you have to fill out this like 500 question, you know, question paper." I'm
Yeah,
like, "It's like that. I have this big long profile of me with like my
yeah.
pictures and all this intimate information about myself, and
Yeah, the
you
pictures
know,
are included.
it,
That's totally true.
I know." And I have a picture of like me holding a goat, like, and it's funny because I sent that just like because I'm a pretty goofy person. And so I was like, whatever, like this is cute. And my IPs love that picture. She's like, I saved that picture and had it in my phone before I ever had any other pictures of you. She said, I just
Oh,
think that's the best thing on the planet. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's funny. But
To just
yeah.
be you. I love that advice. And again, for me, like I know there's a lot of surrogates kind of with differing opinions about the vaccines, and I'm like completely the opposite. Like I wanted specifically to work with somebody who was vaccinated and was all about that. So really you find the right people for you based on, you know, your beliefs and, you know, all the things that make up the criteria that match for. So
how awkward would that be if you match with somebody that's completely different than you, and then like if you consider like the length of time that it takes to do one journey, even without any hiccups, like you were in contact with this person, and it's not like, you know, like in a relationship, if things get too awkward, you can just leave. You can't leave. You have their baby living inside of you for 9 months.
Oh,
so you're stuck with whoever you match with. So you better make sure you get along with them. So that's like perfect advice.
Yeah. Well, and for me, like I was pregnant right in 2022. I guess I got pregnant in 2021. And so I wanted to make sure that I could get like a booster. So like that was something that was really important to me. So I was able to get a booster while I was pregnant because my intended parents were okay with that. So like that sort of stuff for me was like a non-negotiable situation because like you said, Jenna, it's a long time. And also for me, that was like a health and safety thing. So it's really, I think, important no matter where you are on things that you're making sure that your intended parents are on the same page about some really important stuff like that. So it feels really weird to talk about because like when else are you meeting somebody and being like, how do you feel about abortion? Like you're really not, right? But those are really important conversations to have like right up front. And, you know, we have staff that's kind of with you to have some of those conversations that are, can be kind of awkward.
Yeah, I was going to say that's another thing. Don't be afraid to ask questions about the questions. Like if you make it to the point where you're filling out your profile, there were like some things that the wording made me answer it differently than I ended up answering it, because the person that was helping me from Family Source kind of walked me through it and was like, hold on a second. Is this how you really feel, or are you reading it like this? And I was kind of confused. So I was like, oh, okay. Like, you know, so it's just kind of, because there's a lot of stuff on there. And
nail polish and hair color.
Right. Yeah. Like, are you dyeing your hair? Are you painting your nail? Yeah. Things that you wouldn't really think of.
And I went over all that stuff in my Zoom. It was funny. One of the other girls from the group, that's kind of early on in her journey, we were just messaging back and forth on Facebook, which I love that we all like can become friends. And it's like, it's almost like you know the people, but it's just because you're going through the same like life-changing event together. But she said that. She's like, I got to find out if I can color my hair. And I was like, girl, that was one of my things in my Zoom. I'm like, so here's the thing. I'm going to do my hair, right? And I'm going to paint my nails, like, you know, and you do that. It sounds little and like it wouldn't matter, but I've talked to people, you know, and it's like, I can't color my hair during my journey, or, you know, and then like my IPs, they're like, as long as your doctor is good with it and you're healthy and the baby's healthy, we trust you. We picked you because we feel comfortable with you and because we trust you. And so, but I still went over all that stuff because I'm like, obviously this isn't my natural hair color.
What?
So I wish it was, I mean, you know, but, you know, it's like, I couldn't hide it. It's like I could be like, oh, no, I'm not coloring my hair.
I'm good. Yeah. Sure.
No, but I worked out. I got really, really lucky because I was actually okay as a hairstylist. I'm a hairstylist, and obviously my hair is not natural either. But when I started matching, I was like, if you're uncomfortable with hair color, and right now I'm a part-time janitor. So like nail polish just falls off my nails anyway. So I told him, I said, if you're uncomfortable with me doing my nails and coloring my hair, that's fine. I'll go the whole journey without it. Because in my mind, I thought that nobody would match with me if I told them that, yeah, I color my hair and paint my nails. So like, I'm not going to lie, I'm glad that he's so easygoing, because then later on, I'm like, are you okay with me painting my nails? And he's like, yeah, I don't care. Like, as long as it doesn't affect the baby, maybe the baby will come out with cool hair colors and nails. And I'm like, okay, cool. So it's like, I lucked out, because if I would have matched with somebody that said I couldn't, like, I'm locked in and I wouldn't have been able to color my hair or paint my nails.
Yep.
So don't lie. Don't say you're okay with something if you're not.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, because you will find someone, and our staff again is happy to help coach you through some of that and have some of those difficult conversations for you and with you. So, so on
Yeah,
that,
one of the people I matched with, matched, and then we didn't match. I picked them, and then they said no because I had a cat. So that was like,
interesting.
yeah, it was like a culture thing. It was like it's seen as
Oh.
like bad luck in their culture for
Hmm.
pregnant women to like be around a cat. Like usually it's a health thing, but this was like a culture thing. And so I was just like,
Cat will
well,
kill your
I
soul.
love my cat,
Sorry
so
about the
we're gonna
cat.
have to part ways because I'm not getting rid of my cat.
Right. Oh yeah, that is so interesting. And yeah, again, these are things that I wouldn't necessarily think about. So it's always really great to get different perspectives. So I'm so glad that we were able to chat tonight. And again, I could just keep chatting with you both forever about these things, but unfortunately, I have taken up all the time that you have granted me this evening. So I'll definitely have you both back. Jenna, I know we're going to have to follow up to see how this transfer goes. I know if folks are following us on TikTok, you make some really wonderful videos that we post on the Family Source TikTok account. So we'll definitely be following up with you there. And Brittany, as you get closer to delivery in the next couple months here, we'll be following your journey as well. So thank you both so much and have a great rest of your evening.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.